What is a leader? The goal is revenue. It comes down to empowering your reps to do their best work. I do think that respecting your leader as someone that can do your job better than you is important. Like, you want to be learning from the best. As a leader, staying involved in the deals is an important thing, from garnering respect and having that go both ways, and not just sitting from some ivory tower and like spewing knowledge that is no longer relevant. How do you make sure that you don't go into super rep territory? It's not your deal to win. It's the rep's deal to win. And making sure that the rep stays in the driver's seat and you're there to support them. Sometimes that is interjecting when a conversation is going sideways, asking the hard question that the rep needs to save face on. It's knowing your role, but it's to support the rep in winning. It's not yours to win.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this leadership episode of 30 Minutes to President's Club. My name is Armand Farouk, and I'm here with my co-host, Mark Kosklo. And today, we have the VP of Sales and Partnerships over at Layton Health. Her name is Maryana Kessel. Maryana, by background, is a multiple-time President's Club winner as both a leader and a rep. She closed 8-figure deals as both a leader and a rep, not 7-figure, but that means $10 million plus deals. And she is putting on a masterclass in how to lead an enterprise sales organization and get involved to bring big deals over the line. Mark, why should people listen?
What I took away with from Maryana was, I think she has an extremely high bar. And there's a saying of like, you can lead from the front and you can lead from the back. I think Maryana has a new way. You can lead from the pack. And I think that's what she's done, is she is leading by being in the trenches with her reps every day. And I think in this episode, you can find a way to be more involved with your reps that helps your street cred, which will help you be a better leader.
And 3, 2, 1, let's roll. All righty, Maryana, welcome to the show. We start every leadership show with your top 3 actionable takeaways. Let's get your 3.
The first takeaway is get in the trenches when you're on sales calls with your reps. I think it's so important for leaders to lead from the front, get into the details, and deal with objections head on. Specifically, the rep is the driver of the car. I am the passenger, but I have a really unique position in being able to bring clarity to the conversation. So for example, if someone is getting into the weeds and we're talking about something really specific and nuanced, I can actually bring that conversation back up and say, like, why does this matter to you? Or let me ask a silly question, how did we get here? Or was this discussed before? And so I think bringing that clarity and that levity is really, really important to remaining focused on what the goal is. And the second position that I have on calls is being able to pull the conversation up to ensuring that we are actually getting to the outcome that we want. It's very hard to always be actively listening. There might be multiple stakeholders on the call, kind of watching the conversation unfold. I have the ability to then call on someone who might be a little bit more quiet or who isn't as, isn't participating as much. And that's a really important position for a leader to take on calls.
Awesome. What's number 2?
Number 2 is when in doubt, get on a plane. I think that, in enterprise sales, there's not a single decision. There's not a single 6-figure plus deal that is made by one person anymore. It's all made by committee. And you're going to feel in moments that you're stuck, right? Whether that's communication with the client is getting a little bit terse or they're not replying as quickly, or you're feeling like, hey, yes, we know that the contract is being reviewed and legal, but we're not getting any sort of updates or clarity on that. At those moments, get on a plane, because when someone is with you in person, they're actually going to, break down those walls, open up to you. I'll give an example. We're working on a pretty significant deal with a large health system in New York, and we were getting these kind of like, hey, it's in progress. We showed up, we brought them breakfast, and I had a 15-minute conversation outside of a conference room where we got the real scoop of what was going on. And I think, in large deals, it's normal for the client to be a little bit hesitant on unveiling all the things going on. And so when you're with someone in person, it does really open up the opportunity to connect.
Great. What's number 3?
No surprises and good vibes. I want to make sure that my team knows exactly how I feel, what's going on in the company, what to expect, good, bad, ugly, or otherwise. It goes both ways. I'll give an example. One of my reps just last week had forecasted a deal that I ended up taking out of my forecast, and I shared that back with the entire team and explained why. We didn't have an executive alignment. We weren't getting visibility onto when the contract would be signed, when implementation would start. And I think that was a tough moment, but it's important that everyone understands how I'm thinking through these different opportunities and what is needed to really get a deal into a place to be forecasted. So it was both a teaching opportunity and also that connection with my team that we are one team. But in order to meet the forecast, we have to do more. And then good vibes, like sales is hard. It's really tough. And, being with someone who's upbeat and keeps energy high, like that is, I think, a really important piece of a leader, is to make sure that the team stays in good spirits, especially when it's tough.
When I hear how you describe what you do, I think about when I was a rep. And I think I would love to have a leader like you that's willing to like come sell with me, not try to sell me on how to be a better seller, right? And one of the things that I think that it begs the question of is there's a concept of, all right, there's a super rep, a manager that's a super rep, a leader that's a super rep that comes in and does the deals for the reps. And then there's one that creates self-sufficient reps that can do that on their own, and we come in and work together on things. How do you make sure you're not straying into super rep land when you're activated in this way?
It's a really good question. I think let's take that a step back and kind of divide the question into a couple of parts. So what is a leader, right? I think, whether you're a manager, you're a director, you're a VP, the goal is revenue, right? And so you want to make sure that you're gaining revenue as sustainably as possible. And it comes down to empowering your reps to do their best work. I do think that respecting your leader as someone that can do your job better than you is important. Like, you want to be learning from the best. And so staying involved in the deals is an important thing, from garnering respect and having that go both ways, right? Actually understanding what your reps are going through and not just sitting from some ivory tower and like spewing knowledge that is no longer relevant. So getting in the deals, I think, is very, very important. How do you make sure that you don't go into super rep territory? It's not your deal to win. It's the rep's deal to win. And making sure that the rep stays in the driver's seat and you're there to support them. Sometimes that is, interjecting when a conversation's going sideways. Sometimes that is, asking the hard question that the rep needs to save face on. So it's knowing your role, but it's to support the rep in winning. It's not yours to win.
You talk about, hey, I'm in calls all the time. I need to know, how do you figure out how to be in calls? You only have 10 hours a day, 8 hours a day, however often you work. You have a bunch of executive and leadership stuff to do. Then you have all these calls. Like, how many calls a day do you allow yourself? Like, what kind of calls are you in? Like, take me through the decision tree of how do I manage my time but still be in calls all the time?
I work a lot. I'll just start there. But what I think is very important is, again, not losing sight of the goal. So I'm ruthless with my time. I will join customer meetings, always come first. Always. There's no question about that. It's customers, and then it's my team. Then it's leadership. Then it's everything else. And so making sure, recruiting is very high up there as well, because that is my team. I will prioritize based on where I'm going to add the most value. So I ask my team to include me on calls because I want to join as many as possible at all times. It's often that I'm like quadruple booked. So it doesn't stress me out anymore. I just make the decision based on what's going on. If a sensitive situation is going, I'm absolutely going to join that call, and we're going to do a prep and a post-call debrief. However, like, it's also good to just listen in, right? Whether it's an implementation or something that might not even be directly relevant. Like, I want to hear how things are going so I can continue to inform our strategy. I think it's very easy to get caught up in a lot of internals. Like, let's strategize about this, or let's go in and plan on XYZ. I ask my counterparts to loop me in when I can make a decision. But while you're figuring out the plan and all these other things, like, I need to focus on revenue. So I think it's a combination of just working a lot and being really focused on your time.
I wonder, on the answer to this question, can you give like an example of like 2 or 3 places you would jump into a deal? Because I know you're having your reps pull you in any and every deal, but if you could even give an example of like, this is how I would say bring me into early stage deals, mid stage deals, and late stage deals, I think that would make it like just a little bit more actionable, so I could tell my team, these are the 3 great example moments. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I'd also do the flip of ones where you would never jump on a call.
Let's start with the ones where I would. So I think in early stage calls, when I can bring the company vision, there's a lot of times in I'll speak to healthcare, but folks are not going to just sign up with you because you solve a single problem. They want to partner with you for the longer term. And so having the visibility that I have over many, many of our customers, how they started with us, where they're going, and our roadmap, that is better delivered generally by an executive than by a rep, just from that vantage point. So that's from an early stage. On a mid stage, there might be scenarios in which you get an objection of, well, so-and-so can do this, or it's just not a priority. And coming in to have the tough conversation, that's oftentimes where I will come in or ask my team to pull me in as well. At the end of the deal, I often am the business person negotiating the agreement. So we'll do that in combo with our attorney. But there's a lot of business terms. So coming in and being able to make the call on payment terms or on the duration of the contract or any of these kinds of things, that's where I like to be looped in.
So vision / roadmap,
Mhm.
high level objections that the rep just is really struggling to get around.
Or it
And-
comes off differently from a leader than an AE. I mean, there is some of that, you know.
Yeah, well, and sometimes reps just, they aren't equipped to deal with something they've never heard of, or they don't have enough insight into how the company works to really answer the question. And they're surface where you can go super deep because you just understand more. And then the last is going over like negotiation, business term type of things where like there could be a mistake that could be made that could be really bad for the deal or the company or the customers.
Or I could speed up the deal, which is more often what I look to do, of like, I'll give on this if you can do that. And I can make that decision because I own it. So whereas a rep would have to write up a business proposal to me and we have to do the whole thing, like I rather just be in there and make it happen.
Yeah, I'll never forget. We were closing a humongous telecom company, multi-million-dollar deal, and I called the rep 2 or 3 days before, and we were having our big negotiation deal with the actual economic buyer that had budget. And I was like, "Hey, let's role play this thing. Let's talk through it real quick."
Oh yeah, I love that.
And he felt lost. He like didn't know where to start, and so that's where I was like, "Okay, if I don't come on this call, we're going to either agree to a discount that's going to be onerous. I'm going to get my butt chewed out, or we're going to lose the deal." Like that was the only two options, because in our role play and in practicing with him, it was clear to me that he didn't have another lever to go to other than discount. And so what I did is I was like, "Hey, listen, why don't you let me model the call, street cred, and I'll show you how to create other levers in this negotiation. And let's fill out, we had a little negotiation worksheet. Let's fill out this worksheet to see what we can do." And I think that, a great place great framework to use or decision-making process to use to get into calls is look through your deals each week. What are the most important meetings that week? Call those reps or Slack them just real quick. Like do a little voice note in Slack and be like, "Hey, tell me how you're going to deal with this little thing that you're over here, because I'm seeing this thing." And if they don't do it well, ask if you can model it and help them out in a call or role play it ahead of time. And if they can't get there, then you got to be there.
I agree. I think it should also be a call to you that if you are not being asked to be on calls, it's probably a reason for that. So be vulnerable. Ask, right? Like, "Hey, I see this really important call. There might be a reason why you didn't ask me to be there. Like, I want to hear your feedback," and be genuine about that. Like, you actually need to want to know the answer to it so that you can get better. That would definitely be a call out to me.
So Maryana, let's go through the negotiation example. So you talked about your reps bring you into late stage deals so that you can manage the negotiation. Maybe they can save face.
Mm-hmm.
First, let's break this down step by step. When in a negotiation, should a rep be bringing you in? Is it the rep's already gotten tapped out 3 times and like you're already at 20% discount, you got to draw the line? Or do you want to be brought in with the moment the negotiation even starts in the first place?
In enterprise sales, it's the moment that it starts or after the first round. So it would depend on the rep's experience, what the scenario is, but very quickly and early on, we should be doing it together.
Tell me what stage the deal needs to be in for you to consider the negotiation to have begun. Is it like, do they need to be at a certain level of power? Because I'm sure it's not they're just sharing a range, right? Like, what's your criteria for like, all right, this is a negotiation that I'm ready to take on as a sales leader?
Mm-hmm. So we need to have executive alignment that it makes sense to move forward. before then, we're still in the selling part, right? I actually talked to my team about two parts of a deal very tactically. Like, one is, do you want to do this? And then two is, how do we do this part? Again, I'm working with very complex systems. There's a lot of players involved. There's a lot of committees. When we get to how do we do this, that's when you should loop me in always, because now we have to navigate through, many committees and many different teams.
Mark actually got me to change the way that I built my own sales stages. Before, it used to be stage 1 is discovery, stage 2 is demo, stage 3 is multi-threading. And instead, I rewrote them as the things that I'm trying to get from my customers. So stage 1 is problem agreement. Stage 2 is solution agreement. Stage 3 is power agreement. Power agrees that this is a problem we're solving. And at that point, that's usually when same side selling begins. In other words, we all want the same thing to happen, but now we need to go into the last 2 stages, which is commercial agreement. We need to make sure that the numbers in the contract make sense. And then vendor approval. We need to make sure you can pass security review.
I love that. I love
Once
that.
that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, ours are discovery, defining the solution, on-site and executive engagement, because those are the things that we need to get. We go into early contracting, which is like, we have decided that we want to do this, but now we've got to go through all of the security reviews, AI reviews, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We have to go into the beginning of redlining. Then we get to finalizing the agreement, because there's so many things that can happen there. So I love the way that you think about what is the thing we want to get out of it. The exit criteria are, have we accomplished these outcomes?
So your rep is like, alrighty, Maryana, like, I haven't even gone through the first cut in the negotiation. So you're going in, you're talking to a COO or a CFO. You jump on that call. Actually, before you jump on that call, what do you need from your rep in the prep for the negotiation?
Why are they doing this? Who are the players involved? How do they feel about us? When is their timeline? What have they shared to you? I like to divide this also, all of these categories, into what do we think we know versus what do we know we know? Mm-hmm. And I actually have that built out. What was the price that was listed? How do they respond to it? Where do we think we'll land and why? And when I say where do we think we land, price is one small part of that. It is how many modules are they going forward with? When, how, why, who's signing, what is the term? Do we get logo rights? Like, a lot of different components to that. And so we basically do where are we starting and where do we think we'll end? What is our walk away, and what's our strategy going into it?
The what do we know and what do we think that we know?
Yeah.
That's the riddle. That is the riddle. How are you figuring out the difference when a rep's like, oh yeah, they said this, this, and this, and you're like, that's an I think, not an I know. Like, tell me how you ask? Like, give me an example. Or if you want to role play it, I'm happy. I'd love to role play it, but hit me up. Like,
we're doing a very large deal with the largest health system that is near you. You're the rep. Yeah, let's role play. So you think that it's going to go into, we've got the approvals and they're ready to sign.
All right. Hey, Maryana. Yeah, great call with the CEO. He's seen it, I think everything he said sounded like they're moving in the right direction. He said he'll get back to me in a couple of weeks, and we should be moving right into legal.
Uh-huh. Why is
I'm ready to commit.
Yeah, okay. Why is it going to take a couple weeks? What are we missing?
I don't know. He just said he would get back to me in a couple of weeks. Okay.
Have we done all of the procurement processes that we need to? The security review, the governance council, the AI review?
I think that's well, no, we haven't done any. We've done a couple of those things, but we're in the middle of some other stuff. But he's ready to go. I'm telling you, this guy wants to he wants to get busy.
Okay. Well, we need to follow up with the different councils and committees and receive their approval. Can you do that?
I don't know. Maybe.
What makes you think that he's ready to sign? It'd be pretty strange for a CEO of a health system to just override their security team.
Yeah. I don't know. He seemed really excited, and he really loved our demo.
Why is he so excited?
He loved the demo. I mean, he said, this is exactly what we need. This is exactly how we need to fix this problem.
Why is that problem so urgent?
All right. So guess that's what I'm feeling, Armand. I'm feeling Jordan Chavez 5 Whys, baby, right here. What you're doing, Maryana, is, there's this concept called the Chinese 5 Whys. It's basically a Chinese parable that talks about, you can't continue to lie after somebody asks you why 5 times. You're just not creative enough. So it sounds like that's what you're doing. You're making people get to a place of evidence versus their perception of reality. And until you feel evidence, you keep asking for why until they probably, like me in this role play, realize
Cut her out.
I shouldn't have just said what I just said 5 minutes
Yeah.
ago.
And I think the important thing to call out here is I'm not trying to put someone in a corner. What I'm trying to call out is, have we looked at all of the steps that we're going, because they're always going to come up. Like, there's no way, like, this is not magic. You know, there's going to be certain steps that you need to check off when you're doing very large deals. And so have we checked them off? And I have a scenario right now where I'm not sure if we actually received approval on something. So what do? I pick up the phone and I call. It's like, you have to be able to check that off because they're going to ask for that as well. When was it approved? Right? You need to be able to offer that back to the customer. And when you're working with, you know, very spread out organizations or multiple committees, they're not communicating internally. So being able to be that project manager and have those things buttoned up, that's going to help push your deal along faster. You
talked in prep, and we talked a little bit about the forecasting thing, and you called something called Maryana math. I'll pull a deal out of that forecast if I don't feel like it adds up, right?
Yeah.
Help me. Like, do you have like a set of required things? I know you probably have 20 of them, but give me like the non-negotiable, absolutely evidentiary proof that this, and then that you feel like, hey, if I don't have this, I'm taking you out. If you do have this, I feel decent.
Executive alignment. And by that, I mean, did an executive person who can sign the paperwork say yes to this, both to the product and to the price? 2, did we get a red line back? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Again, we're things take a long time in healthcare. So if we didn't have a red line back, it might as well not even exist. And then 3, do we know when they need to get this going? That's a very important point too, because we often, you know, as we're transitioning from account executives to account managers, having that implementation timeline is a very real thing, because that's when we have their commitment from their IT team to actually start moving.
Yeah. And that's what's needed for like a commit deal in your forecast, right?
Yeah.
So question for you. When it comes to getting a red line back, I called this red line deadlines when I was leading the sales team at Pay. It's like, you got to do a red line deadline, right? It's like, if I give them a contract, I need to have a deadline for when I need first cuts back, because the battle in legal is not getting the contract done. It's getting the contract to even be prioritized. With you. So what are some hacks or tricks or ways that I can, in healthcare, the slowest industry in the world behind government tech, how do I get first cuts on red lines back more quickly?
Very tactically, you need multiple C-level executives to want to do this. And you get them to do, and you get those conversations because you're building that vision. You're having conversations at that level. It's more than just a point solution. Like, those are really, really important pieces. Multiple C-level connects is critical. The other piece is demo to the legal team. Bringing it to real life. Like, people are in healthcare because they actually care about making things better. When they see what this what our product is solving, they do have that emotional connection and they will prioritize it. And the last thing that I'll say, and this is so simple and silly, but like, be someone who they want to work with. And when they feel like they want you to win too, there's a different level of like, hey, can you do me a favor internally? And that's really when we start to see sales cycles shorten, is when the person on the other side wants you to win too.
I can't stress that last one enough. I had a really great seller who was doing okay, but he had the potential to do better. And he's the type of person that, like, my daughter would go babysit his kids. And we would go out to dinner together, like, just a really, still a good friend. Just talked to him this week. His unlock was he needed to realize that people wanted to buy from him as a person, not him as a rep. And so I remember one time in a deal, I was like, listen, you know, I just heard you talk about this stuff. Did you ever send them a picture of your kids? And they're like, no. And I'm like, you need to like put a little, like, you just talked about this trip you went on this and your kids did this. Send them a picture of the trip. The minute that he saw what happened when he made himself a human and not a selling robot, he immediately like skyrocketed, like it changed the course of his career. And he, we kind of had this hilarious thing, but he had his own sequences in outreach that were all like pictures of his kid. And he'd be like, okay, once I get into the family situation, I'm throwing him in the family sequence, and the family sequence is going to get me the deal. And because people do want to buy from humans, and we can do all of these other things and check all these other boxes. But in the end, if they don't like us, if they don't feel like they can connect with us, then there's a part of the trust that's not there that's required to do these large deals.
It's funny that you bring that up because Ben Braverman, who is the former CRO of Flexport, actually taught me how to eat in front of customers. I was so nervous. It was the first time being an enterprise rep. I was like 27 or something, and I was wearing this like suit, and I was just like so stressed out because I look young. I am young. I'm selling to a pretty kind of stodgy industry. And he's like, Maryana, you have to eat. Like you have to, when you're at like a networking thing or you're going to a customer, like you have to bring them lunch, because if you eat in front of someone, it just lowers all of the pressure in the room. And I couldn't handle it. I was like, there's no way I'm going to have like crumbs on my face. And he was like, Maryana, just do it. And it totally changed the way that I think about things, because we are humans. And if you have that, authenticity is a new currency. Like you have to be authentic. So I love the idea of sharing photos of your kids and all of that, as long as it's genuine. As long as you actually want to do that and someone's connecting with you in that way. Like I've sent customers, hey, you're going to Maui, like here's a recommendation of a wonderful place. Or, someone will say something about something that happened to them, and I'll like send them like a little something in the mail or whatever, because I actually want that relationship. So I think that, yeah, when you kind of do it at scale, it's a little bit more of a mentality than it is like a tactic.
There's something about in-person interactions. There's a saying of like, stand tall and own your space. And like the sign of an awkward dinner is we're 3 people on a show. If they served us 4 dumplings, that last dumpling would sit there for like 10 minutes. And like, that's the sign that people aren't comfortable with each other, versus if we were all friends and fine and dandy, we would be fighting over it. I would eat 3 before Mark ate 1. And then Maryana, you would have nothing to eat. Right. And so like, you have to break these like BS mannerisms early. There's one time I went to an onsite with one of the top producing insurance agents I'd ever worked for. And we went into the lobby, and I sat down on the chair, and we were waiting for the managing partner to come out. And he was like, up. And I was like, up. I was like, don't sit down. And he takes me over to the window. He's like, it's like, when that guy comes in, I don't want him being like, oh, now I'm like ruffling my suit and putting my suitcase away and like standing up all like polite and stuff like that. It's like, I'm going to be comfortable in my space as if I was like in my friend's living room. And he starts looking through like the pro bono booklet and all this stuff. And then the managing partner walks in, and the guy turns around and he's like, oh, look, Mr. Pro Bono decided to join us today. And the guy started laughing because he was holding up this fat pro bono book, which is like twice the size as a normal pro bono book in a law firm. And like, he just made himself comfortable in the space. And the guy just opened up in the meeting because he broke the traditional corporate norms.
You have to be you, right? Yes, be professional, be courteous, do all of these things. But at the end of the day, and I've been very fortunate, I've only really worked for companies that I truly believe in. For me, I want to solve this problem genuinely. And so when I'm talking with people, it feels like we're actually doing something worth doing. And so I think if you can be yourself, and whatever, you don't always get the opportunity to sell something you really care about. I want to be realistic about that, but find your reason of why you want this person to succeed. Maybe it's because they're going to get a promotion for, growing their organization, or they'll lower their risk or whatever else. And if you can connect with that, I think that is ultimately why, I've been successful both as a rep and a leader, and also in bringing the right folks to your organization, because they want to do that too.
Amazing show. We have to move to the final segment, and the final segment is the final 4. It's 4 rapid fire questions that I'm going to ask you off the cuff, and your goal is to just answer them with the first thing that comes to the top of your head. You ready?
Yeah, sounds good.
Number 1, what's your number 1 interview question?
What is a deal that you lost, and what will you do differently? And I know this is a pretty common one, but I want to feel pain when I ask them this, because if you every successful salesperson I've ever worked with, they can rattle off their big wins, but when you ask them about something they lost, it still hurts. And that is what keeps them going, and that is what makes them, so motivated to do better.
A masochist at the best. What is the number 1 culture killer on a sales floor?
A combination of lone wolfism being too good for the job, hey, that's not my job. I'm not going to do it. It's someone else's responsibility. And then also from a leadership standpoint, accepting mediocrity. We set the tone for what we expect. And so those combos, you got to watch out for them.
What is the number one thing you can do to earn your team's respect?
Do the work.
What is the number one way to get promoted to being a sales leader?
You obviously have to be a good rep. Right. I think that's a prerequisite. The biggest difference between a rep that's great and a future leader is someone that's cross-functional, someone that really looks at the organization as a whole, looks at revenue as a whole, right? It's not just closing the deal. It's setting them up for success. It's making sure that account management or customer success has what they need, that you're collaborating with product and engineering, giving feedback, really owning the entire process. That's what sets up someone to be a leader.
Awesome. Maryana, amazing show. Everyone hang on for a 60-second recap. Coming up soon. Alrighty, Mark, it's time for a 3-step recap and one thing you can do. So 3-step recap. Step number 1, you got to get involved in deals, but don't just jump into security reviews. In the early stages, you can get involved in vision selling as a leader. In the middle stages of a deal, if you're getting blockers or if people are saying it's not a priority, you can come in to unblock or save a deal. And then in the late stages, you can be the negotiator in a deal. So that's number 1. Number 2, when you're starting to get deals hitting your forecast, you need 3 things to be true. Number 1, do you have exec alignment on product and price? Number 2, do you have a red line back? And then number 3, do they know when they need to get it going? And then lastly, when you're beating up a deal, the 6 questions Maryana asks are, why are they doing this? Who's involved? What's the timeline? What is the price listed at? Where do we think we will land? And why? Those are the 6 questions that Maryana asks before she gets involved in a negotiation. And then she asks, what do we think we know versus what do we actually know? Alrighty, Mark, what's one thing people can do right now?
I think what people should go do right now is get RevOps or somebody, if you're a sales leader, to create you a report that you get in your inbox every Sunday night. And that report shows you every major deal that has a meeting that week. And what you should spend Monday morning doing is pinging your reps on Slack, being like, hey, see, you have a meeting this weekend with IBM. It looks like it's a negotiation call. And then ask one critical question that you need an answer to see if they can answer and how to answer it. And then based on that, that will tell you if you need to be involved in that meeting or not. And if you get into a nice cadence where you're seeing the 8, 10, 20, 30 really important meetings in your team each week, and you're making sure that reps are prepared and taking time to do that and then joining the calls where you don't feel like they're quite ready, I think that is a really great way to figure out how should you take a part of your week and being in calls.
Well, folks, if you liked this one, then we put together a newsletter a while back on how to run pipeline reviews that don't suck. And a lot of what we talked about today was de-risking deals. So there's a link to that down in the show notes. And Maryana's also hiring. So please go connect with her on LinkedIn. Her LinkedIn is also down in the show notes, and we will see you on the next one.